Hi, and welcome to my channel. If you made it this far, I assume you already read the title and know what this video is about, so let's not waste any more time and get straight to color grading. Let's go. Let's start with the look I used all the time, the desaturated and matte look. I'll be using Premiere Pro, but the exact same results can be created in After Effects. Alright, so inside Premiere Pro, the first thing we're gonna do is come up here to Window, go to Workspaces and click on All Panels. This should ensure that you have the exact same layout as I do. Now that that is out of the way, we can come down here to the first clip and drag it onto the timeline to create a new sequence. Or we can also simply just come over here and right click the clip, scroll down and click on New Sequence from Clip. Right click in this area, go to New Item and click on Adjustment Layer. Click OK and drag the adjustment layer on top of our clip. Expand it a little bit and click on it. Now we can come up here to the right side and click on the tab called Lumetri Color. And let's first go under Basic Corrections. And the first thing we want to do is we definitely want to pull down the highlights quite a bit. So I'm just going to go ahead here and pull it down to maybe, actually all the way down here to -60. Then I'm going to come up here to Temperature to give it a warmer tone. I'm also going to desaturate it slightly. Now we can close the Basic Correction tab and come down here to the curves. And let's go here to the RGB curves and set a few points here. And then we can boost it a little bit here in the highlights to give it a little bit of a pop. Now come down here to the hue and saturation curves. And let's start in the hue versus hue. So we can select this eyedropper tool and we can come up here to the image and click somewhere here on the green area. This should give us this selection that we can then drag down towards a little bit cooler green. Now let's make a selection in the red areas and also pull this one slightly down towards a warmer red tone, somewhere around here. Now let's come up here to hue and saturation and let's do the exact same thing with the eyedropper tool. Select the green area and here we're going to desaturate it quite a bit. Normally I would also lower the blues, but in this case it isn't needed. Lastly, let's select the red range and pull up the saturation. Pretty simple, but really powerful. And here's a quick bonus tip if you want to copy the color grade in Premiere Pro onto another clip. So inside the Lumetri Color, come up here to the burger menu and click on Save Preset. Now just rename it whatever you want. And click OK. And then whenever you need this color grade, you can just come up here to the Effects tab, go to Preset and click the arrow and drag this preset straight onto the clip or the adjustment layer. Let's move on to the next look. So the second film look we are going to create is the teal and orange look, very popular for its color contrast and flattering skin tones. Drag the clip onto the timeline to create a sequence, come down here, right click, New Item and Adjustment Layer. Click OK. Drag it on top of the clip, click on it and come up here to Lumetri Color. Let's start under Basic Correction. And for this clip, I definitely want to give it some contrast first. So maybe increase it to around 10. We can also increase the highlights a little bit. Maybe lower the shadows by, let's say maybe 25. And now we can close this Basic Correction tab and come down here to Curves. Make a few points here on the RGB curves and give it a slight S curve to give it a pop, something like this. Here's the before and after. Now close this tab and come down to HSL Secondary. Click on this eyedropper tool and aim at the skin color of your subject. Click on this button to give us a grayscale of our selection. You can add more to selection by clicking on this eyedropper tool next to it and click somewhere on the skin. We can also make adjustments to the selection range by dragging these sliders. Try to get as much of the skin color as possible and leave the rest out. Click on this button to reverse the selection and deselect the color gray. Add a bit of denoise and also add a little bit of blur to smoothen out the selection. Now we can go down to the correction wheel and we can add in some teal into the background. Here's the before and after. But we're not done yet. If you look at the light source and around the highlights here on the subject, we can see there's a cool tint to it. Let's warm that up a bit. Close this down and go to the Creative tab. And down here we can add in some warm tones into the highlights. And if I quickly turn this on and off, we can clearly see the difference on the skin tones, giving us that warm contrast to the cold teal and blue tones. The last thing I want to do is come down here to hue and saturation curves, go to hue versus hue, and click on the eyedropper tool to select the skin tones. Give the reds a slight nudge towards orange to lose a bit of that red. And that's the final look. Here's the before and after. The last look we're going to create is the vintage film look. This style has a nostalgic charm, emulating the classic analog films. Its appeal lies in breaking away from the pristine visuals, offering a timeless and expressive look. First, drag the clip onto the timeline to create a sequence. Duplicate the original clip, because we're going to be using this later. And we can do this by holding down Option on the keyboard and drag this clip on top. Now create an adjustment layer and let's rename this Basic Correction. And drag the adjustment layer on top of our clip. Now we can go to Lumetri Color. Let's pull down the contrast by 25, lower the highlights by quite a lot, let's try -80, and lift the shadows by maybe 30. Go to the Creative tab. Let's soften the image by lowering the Sharpen by -22. Also turn down the Vibrance by a little bit. Come into Hue versus Saturation curves, go to Hue versus Hue, and set a point range in the blues and shift that slightly towards the teal color. Let's create a bloom effect, which refers to the light diffusion or spreading of light on the brightest areas of your scene. Go to the clip we duplicated earlier and let's rename it Bloom. Go to the Effects panel, search for Luma key, and while your clip is selected, you can double click the Luma key effect to automatically apply it. Now search for Gaussian blur and add that one as well. Now come over here to the left and click on Effects Control. If you don't see it, you can click this double arrow and select it from the drop-down menu. Disable the original clip by pressing this I button, and now we can see what the Luma key is doing. Under the Luma key effect, try to isolate the brightest areas of your clip by using the threshold and cutoff sliders. For this clip, I think around here would work fine. Now come down here to Gaussian blur and start adding in some blurriness. You might need to reactivate the original clip so you can see what's going on, so I think I will set mine around 25. Now that we're done with this effect, we can now drag another adjustment layer on top of our composition and rename this one Halation. Halation is a specific type of bloom that often includes a subtle tint related to the color of the light source. So in this case, where we have warm tones, a red halation would work great. Go to Effects again and search for Channel Blur. Drag it onto the adjustment layer or simply just double click it while you have the layer selected. Come over here and start by changing the blend mode to lighten. And now we can adjust the red channel. For this scene, around 30 works great. I will also set the opacity of the layer to around 80%. Now it's time to add some film grain to take away a bit of that digital look. I'll be using stock film clips, which can be found all over the internet and usually just look like a clip with a lot of noise on them. Here's an example of the one that I'm gonna be using. Just drag that on top of the clip. Now, since this film grain is not long enough for the whole duration of the clip, we can just duplicate the clip by holding down Alt on your keyboard and drag the file to copy it over. Now we can select them all, right click and click on Nest. Let's call it film grain. Come back out here and go to blend mode and select overlay. You can also try these other blend modes to see a different result. And I'm actually going to use another film grain clip. This one also has a bit of dust and scratches. Come up to the effects panel and let's increase the scale by a little bit to get rid of those sidebars. Let's set the opacity to 20%. And this time we can set the blend mode to soft light. Last optional thing you can do is to select all layers and nest them again. Come up here to Effects and search for Posterize Time. Apply it onto the nested clip and come up here to Effects Control. This effects let us set a frame rate to whatever we want, and I'm going to set it to 18 frames per second to make it look even older. And that's the final look. Alright, that's it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. And let me know which one of these looks were your favorite in the comment section below. See you in the next video.